So, with all the franchise tags going on, it's now time to look into some of them. And the reason why I say that is because, for example, David Montgomery, former third round pick for the Chicago Bears, was franchise tagged and not signed to a long term contract. The reason why a lot of people are speculating he was franchise tagged was because the Bears want to move on from him. But they want to be able to trade him rather than just let him go. They don't want to be like the Cleveland Clowns who could have traded Kareem Hunt instead of let Kareem Hunt walk when they had plenty of time to trade and get rid of him. So now the question is, okay, why is this important? Well, if they're going to try to trade him on his franchise tag, they have 1 year to trade him, right? Because if they wait 1 year, they have to, then after week 8, they're going to have to franchise tag him again in order to trade him next year. So they have from now until week 8 to trade this man. That means their asking price, especially with how the market's looking right now in running back and teams needy for running backs, this might be a really low asking price. We're talking about possibly maybe a fifth, probably a third or fourth round pick at most, maybe probably like a fourth, fifth, something like that. So David could be going away for pretty much nothing. This is where I would slot in the Cincinnati Bengals. Reason why I say this is because they can rework a contract with him and probably get him for a couple years for very, very dirt cheap. Now, David Montgomery is an interesting player because he's an amazing receiving back and he's also an amazing running back. He's kind of a mix of the two, which I really like about him because he gives that, type of 1A, 1B type of offensive play at the running back position. Something that I think Cincinnati really could use greatly. Don't get me wrong, Joe Mixon and P. Ryan were both really decent at catching the football and running the football, but they need that true explosive player. And without going out there and getting J.D. McKissick, for example, they could find that in Chicago's running back here, David Montgomery. Now, overall wise, he played 16 games last season. He played 13 a year before that, 15, 16. So it's not like he's missing too many games injuries. He did miss some to injuries over the last couple seasons, but for the most part, he is pretty okay, healthy. He's only 25 years old, about to be 26 years old. This could also be a way for Cincinnati to trade for him, work out a contract with him, and avoid him from hitting the open market. A lot of teams will do this. They'll go ahead and trade for a player to avoid that player from hitting the open market because then you're bidding against yourself trying to get a player. I mean, you could have a guy that is a pretty average player and a stupid team out there will bid that guy up to outrageous numbers, right? So this is a way they could trade for him, have the whole year to work on a new contract with him, figure that out, and then have him on the roster as their not starting running back, but maybe the backup running back if they do go ahead and move on from Joe Mixon. So they trade Joe Mixon, and then they'll go ahead and get David Montgomery and then have P. Ryan as a backup. That's another scenario where I've talked about before where they could possibly trade Joe Mixon to the Bears for David Montgomery. That could be another scenario where maybe they get, they trade Joe Mixon to the Bears for David Montgomery, and the Bears give them an extra pick back. Now you might say, well, what are you talking about? Why would the Bears give him a pick? Guys, the Bears want to trade him. They signed him a franchise tag so that they can trade him. If they get someone like Joe Mixon, who I believe, in all honesty, at his 100% healthiest, everything working out, I think he's a better running back than David Montgomery, they will value him higher and say, okay, we'll give you, David Montgomery and a 4th round pick to you for Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon, in all honesty, he saved $10 million by getting rid of him, which is a win-win. Then you get an extra 4th round pick. Maybe take a tight end with that 4th round pick in the draft. So again, like I said, this is why I'm so excited about this team because there's so many possibilities they could go when it comes to this draft class that I would want them to stack up as many picks as possible. So I wouldn't do a David Montgomery for Joe Mixon trade, but I would do a possibly Joe Mixon Joe Mixon trade for David Montgomery and a pick. But if not, and if all craps out, a 4th or a 5th round pick for David Montgomery, I don't think it's bad at all. I think he could be a really solid player for Cincinnati. He could be that next level they need in the backfield, and I really do like this guy. So, and again, if they do this trade, they could then trade Joe Mixon for, let's say, a 3rd or 4th round pick to somebody else, and then possibly, just use that pick to get David Montgomery. So they're not really losing anything in the end, right? They're still having the same amount of picks they had before, except they're able to do this. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, keep in mind that Cincinnati, because they're losing Jesse Bates, they're going to get compensatory picks. They're going to get extra picks because they lost Jesse Bates. They're going to get extra picks if they lose Jermaine Pratt. They're going to get extra picks not if they lose Hayden Hurst, they'll probably get like a 6th round pick. But if they lose Joe Mixon, let's say hypothetically, I know that no, never mind. They can't technically lose Joe Mixon. You have to lose a player to free agency, and another team has to sign him in order for you to get compensatory picks. So, for example, if they were to lose, Jesse Bates, you'd probably get like a 3rd and 4th round pick. If they were to lose Von Bell, they would probably get like a 4th, 5th round pick. If they lost Jermaine Pratt, they'd probably get like a 3rd, 4th round pick. So they're going to get extra picks with that too. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not against the idea of them going after David Montgomery. I think he could be a really solid player. And again, like I said, because they can trade and get this worked out without having to worry about other teams messing with him, this could be a really good scenario. And they could get him for cheap because the Bears are desperate. If anyone says, oh no, the Bears have zero leverage. And you know what? That's the best trades to make. The best trades to make is when a team has zero leverage. So you can just come in and say, all right, I want him at this, this, and this. And the team has to kind of agree to it because they just want to get rid of him. I think Shannon Sharp said it best where it's like, at some point, let's say, for example, a player has, like, I talked about Jonah Williams the other day, right? Jonah Williams making $12.6 million guaranteed. The Bengals would have to trade him, right? So the reason why, and Shannon Sharp said how, at the end of the day, if you want to get rid of somebody, you can always get rid of anybody, no matter who the player is. I don't care what his contract is, what the situation is. And we saw this with the Browns with Brock Osweiler. Remember when Brock Osweiler the Browns took on his $70 million contract from the Houston Texans? Well, the way they did that was because the Houston Texans gave him a crap ton of picks. They said, take all these picks and take his contract. You can do the same thing with Jonah Williams. You could package up a crap ton of picks to get Jonah Williams if you want to get rid of him. Now, the good thing in this situation is Chicago wants to get rid of him, but, it isn't like a king's ransom. They're going to ask, well, they're not going to give the Bengals too many picks, but they may give them like 1 or 2 just to get rid of the guy. So, overall, it's not bad. Tell me down below your thoughts and opinions, though. Definitely interested. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.